G'day legends, welcome to What I Watched Last Month, September edition. You're gonna want to stick around if you're after some cracker movie recommendations. First, I finally watched I Saw the TV Glow. Now, if you're wondering why it took me so long to watch this, it's because us poor Australians sometimes get movies way after they're released in the US. Such a stitch up. This had been one of my most highly anticipated films, given the movie's theme about being obsessed with a kid's TV show from back in the day, and the intense feelings and memories that I still have from some of my old favorite kids shows like Parallax or Jeopardy. But I'm sorry to say, this was incredibly disappointing. So much of this film made me cringe, mainly the acting and the writing. It had these really on-the-nose voiceover scenes straight to camera, the story made no sense, and the ending was extremely disappointing. It sounds harsh, but it felt like a student film. It did capture the idea of TV shows you watched as a kid not being the same or as visceral when you grow up and revisit them, but that was about it. I hate to say this, guys, but I found this very boring. Sorry, lads. Then I watched Gladiator. That's right, you heard it here. This was my first time watching this bad boy, finally, and I was so happy that I got to see it in a cinema, which everyone told me is exactly how you should watch this movie, and I couldn't agree more. This whole movie just reminded me of why I fell in love with Australian rules football. A bit of a weird thing to say, especially if you're watching this and you're not from Australia, but basically what I'm trying to say is that I think this film captures why for centuries humans have fallen in love with competitive sport and why it's still such a big part of our society today. So many epic moments in this. The whole revenge plot is executed close to perfection. Joaquin Phoenix is great in this as well, but I have a bad feeling they're gonna mess up the sequel. After that, I rewatched Babylon. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a 5-star banger film. Was so hyped to get to see this on a cinema screen again, and one of my favorite cinemas, the Astor, which has pretty much been untouched since it opened in the 1930s. This movie has so many hilarious, so many epic, so many emotional moments exploring filmmaking in the 1920s and the transition to sound from silent picture. I just love how this film explores a passion for not only cinema, but anything artistic or creative, and how that can make you feel. My friend Chantel summed it up really well when she spoke about how the ending resonated with her with no longer doing professional dancing when it had been such a big part of her life. I feel the same way watching this. Babylon truly captures a passion for cinema and filmmaking that I feel deep in my heart. It was sadly ironic to look across to my left and see empty seats in the Astor Theatre, but that's part of the film's messaging. Time moves on. Hopefully, cinema won't though. Then I watched The Musician Monkey, and by showing you this clip, you've just watched it too. This is a pre-cinematograph, I think that's how you say it, color animation of a monkey playing his violin. Back in the day, they would have watched this with what's called a praxinoscope, an inner circle of mirrors placed so that the reflections of the pictures appeared pretty much stationary in position as the wheel turned. Someone looking in the mirrors would see a rapid succession of images producing the illusion of motion, with a brighter and less distorted picture than the zoetrope in years before. Pretty amazing to be able to witness something created so long ago, but also with so much personality. I reckon you could call this a meme from the 1870s. After that, I watched Dead Poets Society. Now, many people regard this as an all-time classic, and it had been on my list for a long time. I've gotta say though, I felt a bit let down by this in the end. It started out really strong with that famous Carpe Diem, seize the moment and take advantage of your youth scene, speech from Robin Williams, who's great, but overall I found this just didn't resonate with me. I do admire what Dead Poets Society is trying to say. It's meant to explore the potential of youth and how when you're boxed in and forced to go down a path that your parents want rather than what you want, it's a tragedy if you have so much potential and passion for something else. This film also seems pretty opposed to traditional methods of education and schooling, but this is where I struggled with it a bit. When I was in high school, I felt more forced into poetry and theatre rather than the traditional subjects, which I enjoyed more. And because of that, a film celebrating both those art forms just doesn't really land with me. Then I watched Megalopolis. Oh boy, I won't speak too much about this because you can go and watch my full video review and it would mean a lot to me if you check that out. Man, this felt so spread across way too many different ideas that none of them really seemed to come to fruition. After that, I watched Beetlejuice. Finally getting round to this one thanks to my lovely girlfriend girlfriend, highly recommending it, and it was a pretty fun time. The practical effects are really fun, Beetlejuice himself is a great character and gave me a good amount of chuckles. Some parts of the movie did confuse me a bit, and I felt like a bit of dialogue went over my head, but in the end, I was just glad to tick this cult classic off. I'm not exactly sure what meaning or messaging you're meant to take away from it, but it's a fun film and perfect for a watch in spooky season this October. And that's all I watched in September. A bit of a smaller month for me, but there's plenty ahead in October, so please consider subscribing to stay updated with some great movie recommendations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.